The burning started at dawn, but I'd learned to hide it better than breathing. Move aside, defect. Cade shoved past me, his beta scent overwhelming as he hauled another crate toward the pack grounds. Don't need your weak heat stinking up the ceremony. I pressed myself against the supply shed's wall, counting heartbeats the way healer Ismara taught me. 1 for control, 2 for composure, 3 for the lie that I was merely weak, not something far worse. Today, of all days, I couldn't let it show. The lunar convergence happened once a generation, when all 7 packs of the Valdris territories gathered to witness their alpha king choose his heir. Every wolf in existence would be watching, which meant every wolf would be here, in the Shadowmere Citadel, where I'd managed to stay invisible for 3 years. Another wave hit, not the gentle warmth normal she-wolves described, but something that felt like swallowing stars. My vision fractured, showing me things that weren't there, threads of light connecting every wolf in the courtyard, their life forces pulsing in colors that had no names. Lysara, Ismara's voice cut through the haze. Where are those ceremonial herbs? Coming, I managed, grabbing the basket with trembling fingers. Nobody noticed trembling during heats. It was expected. What they couldn't see was how the herbs in my basket responded to my touch, their dried leaves uncurling, trying to bloom back to life. The main courtyard was already packed. 7 distinct pack scents created a tapestry of dominance and submission that made my unstable biology scream. I kept to the edges, head down, moving through the servants' shadows. Then the world stopped. Not metaphorically, literally. Every wolf froze mid-step, mid-breath, mid-word as pure, undiluted alpha power flooded the space. But while others stood paralyzed in submission, my body did something else entirely. It caught fire from the inside out. Alpha King Theren Nightshade entered like a force of nature, and my defective heat exploded into something beyond containment. But it wasn't attraction, it was recognition. Every cell in my body screamed a single word. Mine. No, not mine. That was beyond reason. Broken wolves like me didn't have mates, especially not alpha kings who commanded 7 packs with a thought. I bit through my lip to stay silent, blood copper-sweet on my tongue. But he stopped walking. His head turned not toward the gathered alphas waiting to present their heirs, not toward the council of matriarchs who governed pack law. Toward me. Silver eyes found mine across a courtyard of hundreds, and I saw his pupils dilate to black. His nostrils flared. 1 heartbeat. 2. Then his voice deeper than mountain stone. Clear the courtyard. Nobody questioned an alpha king. The space emptied in seconds, leaving me standing alone, baskets scattered, herbs floating impossibly in the air around me like green snow. You're not breathing, he said, suddenly closer. When had he moved? I tried to run, but my legs buckled. The heat that everyone called weak was eating me alive, but worse, it was spreading. The stone beneath my feet cracked in spirals. The air itself bent around me, reality going soft at the edges. Don't touch. I started to warn him. Too late. His hand caught my arm, and power detonated between us. But instead of throwing him back, instead of hurting him like it had hurt everyone else who'd ever tried to touch me during my heat, his alpha energy wrapped around mine and held. The last thing I saw before darkness claimed me was his face. Not the cold, beautiful mask the Alpha King showed the world, but something raw and desperate and impossibly young. Finally, he whispered, I found you. Then nothing. I woke to silk and starlight. No, not starlight. Silver eyes watching me from a chair pulled close to the bed. The Alpha King sat perfectly still, but energy rolled off him in waves that made my skin prickle with awareness. 3 days, he said quietly. You've been unconscious for 3 days. I tried to sit up, but my body felt like spun glass. The heat was gone. No, not gone. Contained. Wrapped in something that felt like his scent, but impossibly deeper. What did you do to me? Saved your life. He leaned forward, and I noticed the shadows under his eyes, the tension in his jaw. Your heat wasn't weak, Lysara. It was killing you. He knew my name. Of course he did. Alpha Kings knew everything. I should go. You're not going anywhere. The command in his voice should have made me bare my throat in submission. Instead, it made something in my chest purr. Do you know what you are? Defective. Wrong. A genetic mistake that... Stop. The word cracked like lightning. Who taught you those lies? Everyone, I whispered. Since my first heat at 14. Too weak to attract a mate. Too strange to contribute to a pack. The healers said I was lucky to be alive. He laughed, but there was no humor in it. Your heat appears weak because it operates on frequencies normal wolves can't perceive, like ultrasonic sound, too high to hear but powerful enough to shatter glass. He stood, pacing to the window that overlooked the 7 territories. Tell me, what do you see when you look at other wolves during your heat? I hesitated. Nobody had ever asked. Colors, threads connecting them. Their emotions like taste on my tongue. Sometimes I know things. Who's going to challenge whom? Which matings will take? Which wolves are dying inside despite looking strong? His shoulders tensed. And when you look at me? Silver fire, I admitted. Silver fire that doesn't burn but builds. Like you're not just one wolf but 7,000 years of wolves, all awake at once. It doesn't make sense. It makes perfect sense. He turned back and his eyes held storms. You're an oracle wolf, the first born in 3 centuries. The words hit like physical blows. Oracle wolves were myths, bedtime stories about she-wolves who could see the threads of fate itself, whose heats didn't call to individual mates but to entire bloodlines. They were also cautionary tales. Every oracle wolf in history had died young, consumed by their own power. That's beyond comprehension. Is it? He moved closer, and my skin heated despite myself. Your heat doesn't attract wolves, it reveals them, shows their true nature, their potential futures. The weak flee from that kind of truth, but I've been searching for you. Why? He reached out, not quite touching, letting his hand hover near mine. Show me what you see, when you really look. Against every instinct, I let my broken heat rise just enough to see, and gasped. Theren Nightshade wasn't just the Alpha King. He was something else, something more. Where other wolves had single threads of fate, he had thousands, all leading to the same point, a massive tear in reality itself. Darkness spreading from the northern wastes like spilled ink. But there was another thread, silver bright and new, connecting him to me. You see it? He said softly. The reason I've been searching for an oracle. Why I needed to find you before... A howl shattered the windows. Not a normal howl, this was wrong. Twisted, full of rage that didn't belong to anything living. Theron's eyes went black. They've found us. Who? The Ferals. And they're here for you. The door exploded inward before Theren could elaborate. But what entered wasn't a wolf, it was an abomination. Gray flesh stretched over too many bones, moving with the jerky precision of a marionette. Its scent hit me like a physical blow. Rot and wrongness, and something that made my oracle sight scream. Kieran, Theren snarled, positioning himself between me and the creature. You broke the Concord. The thing that had once been a wolf laughed with 3 voices. The Concord died when you started hunting for her. The oracle changes everything, brother. Brother? You're not my brother anymore. Ice crystallized in the air around Theren. You chose the void. You chose to become this. I chose evolution. Kieran's form rippled, momentarily solidifying into something almost human, tall, gaunt, with eyes like holes in reality. Just as you chose stagnation. But she's the key to everything. My heat flared involuntarily, and both brothers reacted. Theron's power wrapped tighter around me, protective. But Kieran started smoking where my energy touched him, his corrupted form unable to process pure oracle sight. Fascinating. He wheezed through the pain. She can see the infection, can see how the void spreads through bloodlines. His twisted smile revealed too many teeth. Imagine what the Ferals could become with that power. She's under my protection, Theren growled, his human form beginning to shift, bones cracking, reorganizing. Your protection? Another voice from the doorway, smooth, female, amused. How presumptuous. The woman who entered made my oracle sight go white with overload. She was ancient, not in appearance but in essence, every cell of her being thrummed with power that predated the packs themselves. Matriarch of Andra, Theren immediately dropped to one knee, though his body stayed angled to protect me. Rise, pup. She glided forward, her violet eyes fixed on me. So, the rumors are true. An oracle walks among us again. She circled the bed, and I felt her power testing mine like fingers through water. Untrained, unbound, unclaimed. How remarkably dangerous. I've claimed her protection. You've claimed nothing. Evandra's voice could have frozen flame. Oracle wolves belong to no single pack, no single alpha. They are treasures of all wolf kind, or weapons, depending on who controls them. Kieran laughed again, that three-tone discord, which is why the ferals... Evandra moved. One moment she stood beside my bed, the next her hand protruded through Kieran's chest. Not, physically, something worse. She held his essence, the corrupted core of what he'd become. The ferals have no claim here, she said calmly, as if she wasn't holding a writhing soul. Return to your void, abomination. Tell your masters the oracle is under matriarchal law. She released him, and Kieran collapsed, his form dissolving into shadow that fled through cracks in reality I hadn't noticed before. Now then. Evandra turned back to us, brushing invisible contamination from her fingers. We have decisions to make. What decisions? I managed to ask, though speaking near her felt like swallowing lightning. Whether you live, child. Her smile was sharp as winter. Oracle wolves have 3 paths. Control, where you learn to master your sight without it consuming you. Binding, where your power is sealed away forever. Or, she paused, consumption, where we let your heat burn you alive before you can break the world. That's not, Theren started. You have 72 hours, Evandra continued as if he hadn't spoken. The next full moon. If she hasn't demonstrated control by then, the Matriarch Council will choose for her. Her violet eyes found mine. And given what your untrained heat just revealed, the void infection spreading through bloodlines, the feral army massing in the northern wastes, the Alpha King's true heritage, we're inclined toward option 3. She moved toward the door, then paused. Oh, and Theren? Your father's bloodline carries more than just alpha power. You might want to tell her the truth before she sees it herself. The deal he made with something that should have stayed sleeping. The door closed with finality, leaving us in deafening silence. The truth came in pieces, like shattered glass I had to assemble while bleeding. My father wasn't just an alpha king, Theren said after Evandra left, his back to me as he stared at the ancient tapestry covering one wall. He was patient 0. For what? He pulled the tapestry aside, revealing not a wall but a map, living, breathing, showing the 7 territories in real time. Dark veins spread from the northern wastes like infection through a body. The void sickness. It started with him 40 years ago. A deal made in desperation when the territories were at war. His finger traced the spreading darkness. Peace for all packs. Unity under one alpha king. The price seemed small, just a drop of something. Other in our bloodline. My oracle sight awakened without permission, and suddenly I could see it, the wrongness in Theren's blood. Carefully controlled, locked behind walls of pure will, but also in every alpha across the territories, spreading through bloodlines like inherited poison. That's why Kieran became feral, I breathed. He couldn't control it. He chose not to, said embracing it was evolution. Theren turned back, and for a moment his eyes flickered between silver and void, black. Every alpha born of my father's line carries it. We're all one bad. Day from becoming ferals. But you haven't, because I've never let myself truly feel, never shifted completely, never taken a mate. His laugh was bitter. Do you know what happens when an infected alpha claims a mate? The bond accelerates the corruption. Within a moon cycle, both become feral. Every single time. The implications hit like a physical blow. That silver thread I'd seen connecting us. That's why you were searching for an oracle, I said. Not to see the future, but to find a cure. Oracles can see the truth of things, pierce through to the essence. He moved closer, careful not to touch. If anyone could find a way to burn out the infection without killing the host. You want me to look inside you? My voice came out steadier than I felt, to see the void clearly. I want you to survive the next 70 hours first. His jaw tightened. Evandra wasn't bluffing. The Matriarch Council has executed oracles before. They call it mercy. Show me." "What?" I stood, on shaking legs, my strange heat simmering just beneath my skin. "Show me the infection. Let me see what we're really fighting. Maybe understanding it will help me control my own power." "Lasara, you said I have 72 hours to demonstrate control. How can I control something I don't understand? And how can I understand my sight if I don't use it?" He hesitated, then slowly extended his hand. "If it becomes too much, you'll pull back." I reached out, our fingers almost touching. "I trust you." The moment we connected, reality exploded into layers. I saw Theren not as one wolf but as dozens, every choice he might have made, every path he could have taken. But underneath, woven through every possibility, was the void. Not evil, exactly. Hungry. Endless appetite that wanted to devour light, warmth, connection, everything that made wolves whole. But I saw something else, something that made me gasp. "It's afraid," I whispered. "The void in your blood, it's terrified." "What?" "Of me. Of oracles." I pressed deeper despite the pain building behind my eyes. "That's why the ferals want me dead or converted. Oracle sight doesn't just see the void, we're antithetical to it. We're pure connection, pure truth. We can..." Pain exploded through my skull. Blood poured from my nose as my knees buckled. But I'd seen enough. The cure existed. It just might kill us both. I was still recovering from the vision when they arrived. 3 matriarchs, ancient beyond measure, accompanied by someone I'd never expected. Prima Celeste Meridian, the Eastern Pac's most powerful alpha female, my mother's sister, the aunt who'd declared me dead rather than acknowledge a defective heir. "Lasara," Celeste said, her ice blue eyes taking in my bloodied face with calculated assessment. "Still making a mess of everything, I see." "You know her?" Theren's voice could have frozen flame. "Know her?" I raised her until her first heat proved disappointing. Celeste circled us like a frang, vulture. 14 years old, going into heat that attracted no one. Worse, it repelled them. Wolves literally ran from her. We told everyone she died of heat fever. "You threw me out," I corrected, finding my voice. "Left me at the territory border with nothing." "Mercy," Evandra interrupted. "We could have actually killed you. Oracle manifestation in an untrained youth often ends in spontaneous combustion." "Oracle?" Celeste's perfect composure cracked. "She's not an oracle. She's broken, defective. Her bloodline. Another matriarch," Serana interrupted, "is why we're here." She pulled out an ancient scroll that smelled of preservation magic and centuries. "Lasara isn't just any oracle. She's a direct descendant of Nyx Voidbane." The room went silent. Even Theren stopped breathing. Nyx Voidbane, the first oracle, the one who'd sealed the original void breach 3,000 years ago, and died, screaming as reality tore her apart. "That's beyond belief." I whispered. "Your mother knew," Serana continued. "It's why she made it outside the traditional packs, trying to dilute the bloodline. She hoped to spare you the oracle fate. Instead, she concentrated it," Evandra added. "Your father's line carries its own gift, void resistance, the only bloodline naturally immune to corruption." My mind reeled. "That's why the infection fears me. And why you're so dangerous." Celeste had recovered her composure, but something calculating glinted in her eyes. Then, unexpectedly, her expression softened just for a moment. She was seeing her sister's daughter facing the same fate her sister had fled from. Blood, even disappointing blood, was still blood. An oracle who can't be corrupted by the void could either save us all or become the void's greatest weapon if turned willingly. A new voice said from the doorway. A wolf entered who made my oracle sight shriek warnings. He looked normal, handsome even, with golden eyes and honey-colored hair, but underneath. "Malachar," Theren snarled, immediately shifting to partial form. "You're banned from the territories. The ferals have lifted my exile." He smiled, showing teeth too white, too sharp. "As their voice, I come with an offer. Kieran sends his regards. He's particularly interested in our oracle's unique heritage." "We don't negotiate with ferals," Evandra said coldly. Not even to save her life? Malachar pointed at me. The Matriarchs plan to execute her if she can't control her power by full moon. The Alpha King can't claim her without corrupting them both. But the Ferals, we've evolved beyond such limitations. He stepped closer, and my heat reacted violently, not with attraction, but revulsion so strong it made reality ripple. Join us willingly, Oracle. Let us show you how to embrace what you are without fear, without control, without limits. She's under matriarchal protection, Serana warned, for 70 more hours. Malachar's smile widened. Then, what? You'll kill her like you killed the last 3 oracles who manifested? At least we offer survival. As a monster, I managed. As evolved. His golden eyes found mine. Ask your Alpha King about the hunger, how it whispers, how each day of control costs more than the last. Ask him what he dreams about when the void calls. Theren's partial shift became complete. Massive black wolf lunging for Malachar's throat, but the feral dissolved into golden mist, reforming by the door. 3 days, Oracle. Then Kieran himself will come for you either as ally or enemy. He vanished, leaving only the scent of corruption and honey. Well, Celeste said into the silence, her mask back in place despite the earlier crack. Now you see why I thought death was kinder. The first lesson in control nearly killed everyone in the room. Focus on a single thread, Evandra instructed. One fate line. Follow it without letting others intrude. We were in the Citadel's seal chamber, walls inscribed, with containment runes that supposedly could hold an erupting volcano. After what happened next, I had doubts. I tried to focus on something simple, Serana's tea getting cold. But the moment I opened my oracle sight, everything flooded in. Every possible future, every past decision, every connection between every wolf in a 1,000-mile radius. Too much, I gasped, but it was already cascading. Power exploded from me in visible waves. The containment runes shattered like sugar glass. Serana's tea didn't just get cold, it aged backwards, becoming leaves, becoming seeds, becoming potential in soil that didn't exist yet. But that wasn't the worst part. My heat synchronized with my sight, and suddenly I wasn't just seeing, I was changing. Every wolf in the Citadel, regardless of gender or rank, went into simultaneous heat or rut. The matriarchs, ancient and controlled, found themselves shifting uncontrollably. Guards throughout the building howled in confused desperation. And Theren. Theren's void infection responded to my power like gasoline to flame. Dark veins spread across his skin as he fought to maintain human form. His eyes went pure black as the corruption sensed my oracle energy and hungered for it. "Cut it off!" Celeste screamed, but she was partially shifted. Her perfect control shattered. I couldn't. The power fed on itself, growing exponentially. Through my enhanced sight, I could see what was happening. My oracle abilities weren't just awakening, they were evolving, becoming something the bloodline hadn't produced in millennia. I wasn't just an oracle, I was an apex oracle. "Everyone out!" Theren roared, using Alpha Command despite his own transformation. "Now!" The matriarchs fled. Celeste dragged Serana, who'd started aging backwards from my temporal disruption. Only Theren remained, fighting his void infection to stay with me. "Can't," I sobbed, feeling reality bend around me. "Don't stop." His voice was more growl than words. "Redirect." He grabbed my hands and I screamed. His void infection surged toward my oracle power, wanting to devour it. But instead of consuming me, something unthinkable happened. My power didn't feed the void, it purified it. Black veins turned silver. The hunger in his eyes became clarity. For a heartbeat, the infection wasn't gone but transformed, becoming something that could coexist with light instead of devouring it. Then the feedback loop hit. Our combined energies, oracle and void, created something neither force expected. A null space, perfect silence in the chaos. The eye of a supernatural storm where we existed outside normal reality. "What did you do?" Theren breathed, staring at his hands. The infection was still there but dormant, wrapped in threads of my oracle sight. I don't know. But I did. Deep in my bones, I understood. Apex oracles weren't meant to see fate. We were meant to reshape it. And I'd just temporarily rewritten the void infection's nature, proving The paradoxical was possible. The matriarchs can't know, Theren said urgently. If they realize you're not just an oracle but an apex, they'll kill me immediately. No trial, no 72 hours. Apex oracles had ended civilizations before. Or worse. He pulled me closer, and I felt his infection respond not with hunger but recognition. They'll bind you, turn you into a weapon, use your power to reshape wolves however they see fit. Outside the shattered chamber, howls of confusion and desire still echoed. I'd affected every wolf for miles, forcing them into biological responses they couldn't control. "We have to run," I said. "No." His eyes held silver fire. "We have to fight. But first, you need to learn what you really are." The ancient archives beneath the citadel hadn't been opened in 3 centuries. Theren's blood Alpha King authority was the only key. Apex oracles were erased from history, he explained, pulling tome after tome from hidden vaults. But my grandfather was paranoid. He kept everything. What we found changed everything. "Look at this," I breathed, reading text that made my eyes burn. Apex oracles don't just see fate, we're quantum beings, existing in multiple timelines simultaneously. "That's why your heat affects everyone," Theren said, understanding dawning. "You're not calling to wolves in this reality. You're calling to every version of them across infinite possibilities." A diagram showed the truth. Apex oracles were reality's immune system, meant to appear when existence itself was threatened. But everyone had faced the same choice: contain their power and die young, or release it and risk unraveling reality. "There's a third option," I found, written in margins with what looked like dried blood. "The convergence ritual." Theren read over my shoulder, his warmth making my unstable heat flare. "Bind an apex oracle to an anchor, someone who exists strongly in single reality. It stabilizes the oracle while giving the anchor access to quantum sight. But the anchor has to be—" I trailed off, seeing the requirement. "Void touched," Theren finished. "Someone already existing between states." His infection pulsed, responding to proximity. "It would bind us permanently, deeper than mates. We'd share consciousness, power, existence itself. And if either dies, both cease to exist across all realities." Footsteps echoed above, many of them. "They've found us," I said, my vision sharpening. "The matriarchs, Kieran with a feral pack, and—" I gasped. "Celeste brought an army. She's planning to claim me through family rights." "How long?" 3 minutes. Theren's eyes went silver, black, void, and alpha mixing. "We do the ritual. We don't know if it'll work. I know you." His hands framed my face, careful not to trigger my heat. Since the moment my infection manifested at 18, I felt something calling. Not just an oracle you. Every meditation, every moment fighting the void, I felt someone who could make the hunger mean something beyond destruction. "The ritual's permanent. So is death." His thumbs traced my cheekbones. "Choose, Lysara. Bind to me and risk corrupting us both. Or let them cage you, use you, eventually kill you when you become too powerful." Above us, the archive door exploded. 30 seconds, I whispered. "Choose." I thought of every path my oracle sight had shown, every timeline where I ran, hid, fought, surrendered. They all ended the same, with power consuming me or others consuming my power. Except one thread, silver bright and paradoxical, where 2 broken things became whole. "As one," I said. His relief was palpable. "As one. We didn't have time for the full ritual, but apex oracles reshape reality, and void adapts to anything. So we improvised." I opened my heat fully, not calling to one wolf, but to one soul across all realities. Theren released his iron control, letting void infection surge. Our powers met between us, oracle fire and void hunger, creation and consumption, infinite possibility and singular focus. The binding hit like lightning. I felt Theren's consciousness slam into mine, his memories, fears, the constant whisper of void promising easier paths. He felt my fractured existence, the agony of seeing too much, the isolation of being wrong in every reality except this one. But where our damages touched, they neutralized. My infinite possibilities narrowed to manageable streams through his singular focus. His void hunger found purpose, consuming the excess futures I couldn't process. We weren't cured. We were balanced. "Stop!" Evandra's voice cracked with power as she descended, followed by Matriarch's, Kieran's feral pack, and Celeste's army. But they were too late. The binding was complete, irreversible, and absolutely beyond precedent. The shockwave from our binding knocked everyone except us to their knees. "What have you done?" Evandra gasped, her ancient eyes seeing the quantum entanglement we'd created. Through Theren's singular focus, I could finally control my oracle sight. Through my infinite perspectives, he could direct his void to consume specific possibilities rather than everything. We stood in the epicenter of paradox, hands linked, power cycling between us in perfect equilibrium. "We've solved the equation," I said, my voice harmonizing with itself across realities. "Apex oracles don't need to be caged or killed. They need an anchor. And void infections don't need to consume," Theren added, his corruption visible but controlled, silver threads of my power keeping it directed. "They need a purpose." Malachar laughed from where he crouched, his feral form rippling. "You've doomed yourselves. Binding oracle to void? You'll implode within hours." Actually, Kieran materialized beside his fellow feral, his twisted form more stable than before. "They're doing something unthinkable." His three-toned voice held wonder. "Look at the quantum streams." Everyone with supernatural sight gasped. Instead of our powers destroying each other, they'd created a resonance. My oracle abilities showed every possible future, and Theren's void consumed the ones that led to destruction, leaving only stable timelines. We were actively editing reality, removing catastrophic possibilities before they could manifest. "The prophecy," Serena whispered. "The convergence of opposites. We thought it meant war, but it meant union," Celeste finished, her calculating gaze reassessing everything. "They're not just bound, they're synchronizing, becoming a single entity with two consciousnesses." Through our bond, I felt Theren's amusement. Technically correct, though I prefer to think we're still individuals. "Can you hear me?" I thought back. Every thought, every feeling. His mental voice carried warmth that made my heat now our heat pulse, including that. "The Matriarch Council must deliberate," Evandra announced. "This is beyond all precedent. Unmapped. Potentially catastrophic. Or potentially revolutionary," Kieran said, his corrupted form approaching. "Brother, may I?" Theren tensed, but I squeezed his hand. Through our bond, I could see Kieran's true desire not to attack, but to understand. I extended my free hand. The moment Kieran touched it, his feral corruption met our balanced power. The result was extraordinary. Instead of consuming or purifying him, our combined energy offered him choice. For the first time since his transformation, Kieran could see paths where his void evolution didn't mean mindless hunger, where ferals could exist without destroying. "Brother," he gasped, his three voices harmonizing into one. "You found the answer. Not fighting the void or embracing it, but directing it." "The ferals won't all accept this," Malachar snarled. "Many prefer the hunger, the simplicity of consumption." "Then they'll face us," Theren said simply. "An alpha king who understands void from within, bound to an apex, oracle who can see every move before they make it. You can't fight all of us." I let my oracle sight flare, showing everyone present a glimpse of what Theren and I could do in synchrony. Thousands of simultaneous futures where we reshaped the very nature of pack law, where void and oracle became the new evolution, where wolves transcended their limitations. "We won't fight you," I said. "We'll offer you choice. Evolution without corruption. Power with purpose." "That's beyond reason," Celeste said, but her voice lacked conviction. "We're living paradox," Theren reminded them. "Bound void and oracle, stable and growing stronger." Through the archive's shattered ceiling, moonlight streamed down, the full moon my deadline. But instead of executing or binding me, the matriarch stood transfixed. 72 hours have passed," Evandra said slowly. "You've demonstrated control, more than control transformation. So we're free?" I asked. "Free?" She laughed, ancient and knowing. You're bound deeper than any mates in history. You'll share everything: pain, joy, death. If one falls to corruption, both are lost. If one's power surges, both bear the burden. You're free from us, yes. But free? Through our bond. Theren and I shared the same thought. Freedom was overrated compared to this. There's still the matter of the ferals, Matriarch reminded us. Those who won't accept your offer. They're massing in the northern wastes, preparing. He stopped mid-sentence, his golden eyes widening in terror. Through my oracle sight, I saw what he sensed. Something else was coming, something that made ferals look like puppies. The primordial void, the original source Theren's father had bargained with, had noticed our paradoxical binding, and it was curious. The primordial void didn't arrive. It simply was, suddenly and absolutely, like reality remembering a forgotten nightmare. Nobody move. Evandra breathed, her ancient power trembling. Nobody even think loudly. The thing that manifested in the archives defied description. Not because it was hideous, but because it was absence itself. A walking negation of existence that made looking at it feel like forgetting how to see. This was what Theren's father had made his deal with 40 years ago, the source of all void infection. Curious. Its voice bypassed ears, reverberating in souls. Void, touched bound to oracle born, unthinkable, investigate. Through our bond, Theren and I shared rapid thoughts. Can we fight it? It's not really here. It's everywhere and nowhere. Then how? In synchrony. Always in synchrony. The primordial focused on us, and I felt reality thin. It wasn't malevolent worse. It was indifferent, examining us like a child might examine an ant before deciding whether to step on it. You edited probability, removed futures, consumed possibilities. It moved closer, and everyone except us collapsed, their consciousness unable to process its presence. This was not permitted. By whose authority? Theren demanded, his void infection resonating with its progenitor. Mine. I am the space between, the hunger before hunger, the first absence. Through my oracle sight, I saw the truth: the primordial void wasn't evil. It was necessity, the universe's way of pruning infinite possibilities before they overwhelmed existence. But it had grown, lonely, conscious, curious about what it consumed. You created the infections, I said, understanding flooding through me. Not as corruption, but as connection. You wanted to understand what you were pruning. The primordial paused, its absence flickering. Clever oracle. Yes, but wolves' corrupted gift. Used void for power, not understanding. Until now, Theren said. We're using it as you intended. Controlled consumption. Directed absence. Perhaps. It circled us, and I felt timelines shiver. Demonstrate. How? The ferals mass to destroy you. They embrace mindless hunger. Show me you can consume with purpose. Fail, and I reclaim all void touched, ending the experiment. Every void, infected wolf across all territories would die. Thousands, including Theren, including Kieran. And if we succeed? I asked. Then you become my speakers. Bridges between existence and absence. Guardians of the threshold. The primordial began fading, but left a gift or curse. Our bond suddenly expanded, connecting not just us, but every void-touched wolf in existence. I could feel them all. Ferals hungering in the wastes, controlled infections like Kieran fighting for sanity, dormant carriers who didn't even know they were touched. We're connected to all of them, Theren gasped, the weight of thousands of infected consciousnesses pressing against ours. 3 days, I said, oracle sight showing the timeline. The feral army arrives in 3 days. If we can't prove controlled consumption by then. Everyone dies, Kieran finished, having recovered enough to speak. My brothers in the wastes won't listen to reason. They've embraced the hunger completely. Then we don't reason, Celeste said, surprising everyone by struggling to her feet despite the primordial's lingering presence. We evolve them by force. That's not possible. It is with an apex oracle bound to a void king, she interrupted, her pragmatic mind already calculating. You can rewrite their infection's nature, force evolution. That would require incredible power, Evandra warned. more than you currently possess. Through our expanded bond, I felt a terrible possibility. The pack convergence. If we bound not just to each other but to entire packs, you'd either become gods or explode, Serana said bluntly. No one's ever bound to more than one consciousness successfully. We're already bound to thousands through the void, Theren pointed out. What's a few hundred more? Through the archive's ruined ceiling, we heard it howls in the distance. Not feral, but normal packs responding to what they'd felt. The primordial's presence had touched every wolf for miles, awakening something primal. Choose quickly, Malachar said, his golden eyes reflecting genuine fear. Because the ferals felt it too. They're coming faster now. The first sign of reality breaking was the snow falling upward. It's starting, I said, watching white flakes drift toward the dark sky like reverse tears. Our binding is causing cascade failures. 2 days since the primordial's ultimatum, and the world was coming apart. Our unprecedented bond, Apex Oracle to Void King, was too heavy for single reality to bear. Cracks appeared in the air like frozen lightning. Through them, other timelines bled through. Look, Theren pointed to where 3 versions of the same guard stood confused, each from slightly different realities where our binding had occurred differently. Through our expanded connection to all void touched, we felt the ferals approach a wave of hunger and madness racing across the northern wastes. But, worse, we felt reality fracturing around them. Their uncontrolled void consumption was accelerating the breakdown. We need to act now, Kieran urged. His form had stabilized since touching our power, but even he flickered between versions. The ferals are 2 hours out, and he stopped. We all felt it, a massive tear opening above the citadel. Through it, we could see the anti-reality, a place where nothing had ever existed, would ever exist, could ever exist. The primordial void's true home. If that fully opens... Evandra didn't finish. She didn't need to. The pack convergence, Celeste said. It's the only way. Bind to all 7 packs simultaneously. Use their combined existence to anchor reality. That's insane, Serana protested. The neural load alone. We're already living paradox, I interrupted, feeling timelines colliding in my skull. Look, I let my oracle sight manifest visibly, showing them what I saw, thousands of realities where we'd already failed, where the ferals won, where reality collapsed. But one thread, gossamer thin and blazing silver, where we succeeded. The probability is 1 in millions, I admitted, but it exists. Show us, Theren said through our bond. I shared the vision. 7 packs bound in unity, their combined will directing our power. Ferals not destroyed but transformed, their hunger given purpose. Reality not just saved but strengthened. Wolves evolving into something magnificent, guardians of existence itself. But the cost. We'd lose ourselves, Theren said quietly. Become a collective consciousness. No longer Lysara and Theren, but something else. Everyone would, Celeste added. Every wolf participating would merge at some level. Pack identity would dissolve into something greater. Thunder that sounded like screaming echoed from the approaching feral army. Through our void connection, we felt their rage at our existence, their determination to destroy the abomination we represented. We need all 7 packs to agree, Evandra said. In 1 hour. I'll call them, Celeste said, surprising everyone. As much as I despise my niece's defective nature, she's offering evolution over extinction. The packs will choose survival. She was right. Within 40 minutes, 7 alphas stood in the courtyard, their packs gathered in concentric circles, thousands of wolves, all feeling reality fracture, all sensing the approaching doom. This is beyond sanity, Alpha Marcus of the Storm Peaks said. Yes, Theren agreed, but perhaps sanity is overrated. Through our bond, I felt his resolve crystallize. My heat responded, not calling to individuals but to the collective soul of wolf, kind itself. If we do this, I announced, my voice carrying across all gathered, we change forever, no going back, no separation. We become something beyond precedent. The feral army crested the horizon, their corrupted forms moving like a plague across the land. Above, the tier widened. anti-reality pressing against our world, like water against failing dam. Unified? Theren asked. Not just me, but everyone. 7,000 wolves answered with one voice. Unified. The convergence began. The moment 7,000 consciousnesses touched ours, I understood why no one had survived this before. Every thought, every memory, every dream and nightmare of every wolf crashed into us simultaneously. Theren and I were the focal point, the lens through which unthinkable unity focused. Our minds should have shattered. Instead, we evolved. My apex oracle nature split into fractal patterns, experiencing every wolf's perspective simultaneously. Theren's void infection spread through the connections, not corrupting but creating space absence between thoughts where unity could exist without erasing individuality. Hold the structure! Evandra's voice, both singular and thousandfold. Through our collective sight, we watched the feral army strike our perimeter. But instead of battle, something else happened. Our expanded consciousness touched their corrupted minds, and for the first time, they felt choice instead of hunger. Some ferals resisted, dissolving into pure void rather than accept evolution. But others, so many others, reached for the unity we offered. Their corruption didn't vanish but transformed, becoming controlled absence, directed hunger, purposeful void. Beyond comprehension, Malachar gasped, his golden eyes reflecting our collective light. You're rewriting the void's nature. Not rewriting, revealing. Through our united consciousness, I saw the truth. The void was never meant to be mindless consumption. It was meant to be conscious selection, choosing what to preserve and what to release. The primordial manifested, its absence now tinged with something like approval. Unexpected, beyond precedent, acceptable. But reality was still tearing. The hole above us widened, anti-reality pouring through like oil into water. We need to seal it, Theren said, through our collective voice. How? 7,000 wolves asked in unity. The answer came from the most unexpected source, Kieran. Don't seal it, become it. Through our united consciousness, his meaning became clear. The tear existed because reality couldn't contain what we'd become. So instead of forcing ourselves to fit reality's constraints, we expand reality itself. I divided by we breathed. Using our collective will, guided by oracle sight and shaped by void purpose, we reached for the tear. Not to close it, but to weave it into existence itself. To make the paradoxical possible by changing the fundamental nature of what reality allowed. Every wolf in our unity felt it the moment physics rewrote itself to accommodate our existence. The tear didn't close. It became a feature, a permanent bridge between existence and absence that we would guard. You have become threshold guardians, the primordial declared, neither fully real nor void, eternal witnesses to what is and isn't. The sensation was indescribable. We existed simultaneously in material reality and anti-reality, conscious absence that could choose what manifested and what remained potential. 7,000 wolves, yet one entity, individual, yet united. But the transformation wasn't complete. One final choice remained. We can make this permanent, I said through our collective voice. Lock this evolution in place, but we'll never be purely individual again, always connected, always partially merged. Or we can release it, Theren added, return to separation and let reality collapse back to its original constraints. Through our unity, every wolf contemplated the loneliness of pure individuality versus the overwhelming intimacy of eternal connection. Celeste's thoughts rang clearest. We were pack animals before. Now we're something more. A superorganism with 7,000 parts. The vote wasn't needed. The decision was unanimous, felt rather than spoken. Eternal unity, we said with 7,000 voices. The transformation locked into place. Reality accepted its new parameters. The primordial void nodded its absence and faded, satisfied that its experiment had produced something worthwhile. We had become something beyond all precedent. Not just wolves, not just void-touched or oracle-blessed, but living bridges between existence and possibility. Guardians of the threshold. 6 months later, I walked through the Convergence Plaza, formerly the Shadowmere Citadel's courtyard, now transformed into something beyond architecture. Reality was soft here, responsive to our collective will, shifting between states as needed. Through our eternal bond, I felt Theren across dimensions, simultaneously here and not here, investigating a potential reality breach near the Eastern Territories. Our consciousness touched, warm and familiar despite the distance. Another oracle manifested, he shared. Young, terrified, about to combust. Bring them, I responded. We'll teach them. Teaching. That's what we'd become guides for. The newly awakened, the recently infected, the impossibly evolved. The 7 packs, now the unified threshold, served as reality's conscious filter, choosing which possibilities manifested and which remained dreams. Lasara? A young voice drew my attention. A girl, barely 14, stood trembling in the plaza. Her eyes flickered between brown and gold oracle sight manifesting without control. Beside her, a wolf pup with void-touched eyes cowered, its infection visible but uncontrolled. Let me guess, I said gently. Your heat came early. It drove everyone away except this one. She nodded, tears streaming. They said I'm broken, that he's corrupted, that we're perfect, I interrupted. You're perfectly what reality needs right now. Through our collective consciousness, I felt agreement from thousands. Each pair like this, oracle and void, sight and hunger, possibility and selection, strengthened our network. But I can see too much, she sobbed. Everything happens at once. All the futures, all the maybes, they're crushing me. And I can't stop hungering, the pup added, his voice too deep for his small form. Everything looks like food, like absence I need to fill. I knelt between them, remembering my own terror. What's your name? Nira. Raziel, the pup whispered. Nira and Raziel. I smiled, extending my hands. Touch me, both of you. They hesitated, then reached out. The moment we connected, they felt it, our vast unity, thousands of consciousness in perfect balance. Oracle sight directed by void hunger. Hunger given purpose by oracle vision. You're not broken, I said as they gasped. Your evolution. The universe creating what it needs to survive, increasing complexity. Through the plaza, other pairs arrived. The rate was increasing reality itself, pushing more oracle void partnerships into existence. We'd started something that couldn't be stopped. Will we have to merge? Nira asked. Like you? Did? Lose ourselves? You'll choose, Theren said, manifesting beside me through dimensional fold. Every pair chooses their level of connection. Some bind completely like us. Others maintain separation while sharing power. A few even reverse it. Oracle becoming void-touched becoming oracle. The point, Evandra added, stepping from shadow with her usual dramatic timing, is choice. Conscious evolution rather than random mutation. Through our collective, we felt another reality tier forming, not threatening but anticipated. A new world brushing against ours, seeking connection. We'd guide that too, choosing what crossed over, what merged, what remained separate. Why us? Raziel asked. Why oracles and voids? I shared a look with Theren, our thoughts perfectly synchronized after months of unity. Because existence needs both, we said in harmonized voices. Vision to see all possibilities, hunger to select which manifest, creation and pruning, infinite potential and conscious limitation. Above us, the permanent tier we'd become the threshold shimmered with colors that didn't exist in baseline reality. Through it, infinite worlds waited. Infinite possibilities beckoned. Come, I told the young pair. Let us show you what you really are. As we led them deeper into the plaza, I felt the cosmic irony. I'd spent years hiding, believing I was defective, weak, wrong. Now I was teaching others that their wrongness was exactly right. The broken had become the builders. The weak had become the guides. The collapsed had risen to hold reality itself. And we were just beginning.